Hello and thank you for watching DukascopyTV. Today I'm joined down the line by Marco Wagner from Commerzbank to discuss the Japanese economy. So Marco, Japan's Central Bank Policy Board voted unanimously to increase the size of its asset purchase programme to 91 trillion yen and to introduce a new lending facility designed to simulate loans by banks. Now this is only the second time since 2003 the Bank of Japan has acted in such a fashion, 2 months running, but will this be enough to curb deflation fears?
Well, actually, this will not be enough to curb the deflation fears, as to my mind will be anything the Bank of Japan can do. I think the quantitative easing measures of the bank have reached their limits, not so much with respect to their volume, but with regard to their marginal impact. So, concretely, I do not believe that any further monetary stimulus will be able to kickstart Japan's economic engine. Rather, to my mind, the ball is in the playing field of the government. There is an urgent need to carry out structural reforms, for example, including the deregulation of Japan's service sector or, for example, to enhance the participation of women in the Japan's labour market.
Investors were not much impressed by today's announcement as it failed to allay concern economic growth in the world's third largest economy is waning. Is it the case that most investors had already priced in further easing?
Obviously they did. So if the investors had been positively surprised by the extent of the current quantitative easing measures, this might have made the case for a weaker yen. But we have seen quite the opposite. So the yen appreciated right after the announcement. But actually, to be honest, I do not really know what the investors had else expected. To my mind, the latest package is a lot compared to what the Bank of Japan has offered in the past. So today, the central bankers have increased the asset purchase program by 11 trillion yen, plus they newly established the stimulating bank lending facility with no upper limit and where banks can draw credit lines for very, very low interest rates.
Government data showed that industrial production fell an unexpectedly large 4.1% in September from a month earlier, the biggest drop since the March 2011 earthquake. What impact will this have on the global economy, do you think?
In my opinion, the impact of the decline in production in Japan should not be too large on the global economy. By contrast, the drop in industrial production is rather a consequence of the weak world economy, where Japan's main export partners, China, the United States, European countries, currently grow only at a slow pace.
The Bank of Japan decided to leave its policy rate or the unsecured overnight call loan rate unchanged in a 0 to 0.1% range. Was this in line with your expectations?
This is perfectly in line with my expectations because due to the weak economy, the weak outlook and the recently negative inflation rates, there is no room for the Bank of Japan to raise the key interest rate. On the other hand, it has already reached its lower bound, so I think it should be a good guess that the key interest rate remains at about 0 for the time being.
The government and the Bank of Japan issued a rare joint statement after the meeting in which the government said it strongly expects the Bank of Japan to carry on with easing until deflation is overcome. How will this action affect the strength of the yen?
I think this will hardly affect the yen because this statement or announcement, if you like, is simply not credible. As I said before, the Bank of Japan is already doing enough from the monetary side. There is rather the government in duty to eventually come up with structural reforms. And I think this is not very likely to happen, neither with the current government and nor with the presumed next government. So therefore, I think that the Japanese currency is currently rather affected by the woes of the European debt crisis and the economic developments of the United States.
And finally, what are your predictions for the Japanese economy in the short, mid and long term?
I see Japan's economic growth at slightly above 2% this year and slightly above 1% next year. In the longer term, I expect Japan to grow less than 1%, which is mainly due to its low growth potential.
Marco, thank you very much for your time and insights today. It's been a pleasure speaking to you. Now, sadly, that's all we have time for at the moment, but viewers, please click back for our Commodities Corner programme with my colleague Dermot McDermott. Bye for now.